Good morning and happy Wednesday, folks. William Tramp, also known as This FNGM here, ready to talk to you about Encounter Party. Encounter Party episode 20 aired last night, March 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network, which you can find on Freevee and Plex. And it is the penultimate episode. In this episode, we get the first half of the final confrontation of the season. But before we get into it, I should mention that this review/recap will have spoilers. And if you're not interested in spoilers, then you should check out this video. It's wonderful! But if you're still sticking around, then we should get to it. Hit it, Tommy! Tommy! I choose you! I don't know why I'm doing a Pokemon bit in the middle of a Dungeons & Dragons actual play recap episode. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Episode 21, Fate is Inevitable, begins with, point of order. In the episode's recap, it is mentioned that Future Master Brunehammer is a previously unknown meta guy. I missed that before, so hey, thank you, recap. Anyway, blood is splattered everywhere in the top level of the Metagus abode. Among the blood, strange surgical instruments, also bloodied, can be found. Dridian calls to the rest of the party and tells them to find the beholder. I forgot about the beholder body. Anyway, Dridian investigates the instruments and finds that they were custom made. The group searches the room and finds no sign of any body parts, but they do find evidence that the metaguy were definitely studying the body of that beholder. A handout describes the beholder's corpse and requests to Almori that they bring Willowwalk back into the fold. Okay. Well, they also find a note from Willowwalk explaining his dismay of the Metagus straying from the path of pursuing healing. Now, another note refers to Flick and the book that he had found. You remember back in the first arc, which was Olamar's notebook, which had been cursed by a witch. This note is from Caden Temperance. A third note explains a desire of the notebook being that the notebook be returned, and that the book causes strange visions of the future, which is probably why they were able to see the future on the ship. The note is from Caden, and it appears that he is trying to leverage his research for a Metagus title. Now, Asher, while searching around the room, is able to find a map depicting a location in the Sunset Mountains, which is just off to the east. The group determines that this may be Olamar's tower, and the book has likely been returned to there. Well, the group discusses their findings en route to said location. The book being cursed implies that someone doesn't want the contents to be open. Now, there's no proof that Olamar was a part of the future directly. It could just be that his findings were appropriated by this group, but we're unsure. At this point, Asher shows the group that she has one of the monocles. Now, as they travel, storm clouds begin to gather, and the scene is starting to get a little bit similar to that vision that they had on the Cherry Wind. They come up to a ruined wizard sanctum, and they can see, among the ruins, the shapes of two men. Then we see new terrain on the battlefield. Or is it old terrain from episode 1 back again? Either way, it's beautiful. Okay, well, Asher hands the monocle to Tolo, who then uses it. In his attempts to use it, nothing happens, but he does resolve to the group that maybe it's time that they make their own future. So, the group ascends the ruined tower, and there they are faced by Thane Longstrider. Above him, they find the sickly robed form of Metagus Almori. Almori asks them not to fight as he has foreseen their deaths, and as he opens his robe, they see he has grafted the beholder's eyes to himself, and each eye includes one of those monocles. And there's this crazy Almori figure that looks like, Master Roki, but with a bunch of eyes. I'm going to call him Almor Eye from now on. Get it? Almor Eyes? Okay, anyway, Dridian tells Almori that he is no god, and he intends to take back the 20 minutes that his people's lives were worth. Thane locks eyes with Ven, who turns to the group and acknowledges that this may be his final moments, and he starts to approach his uncle. Thane expresses disbelief at seeing Ven. Ven steps closer, and then Ven starts to glow. Suddenly, a spectral figure emerges from Ven's disintegrating eyes and merges with Thane, and Ven's body falls to the ground, lifeless. What?! Thane then stretches out and mutters that destiny is inevitable, and David demands that the group rolls initiative. Side note, David is a lot taller than I expected. That doesn't actually matter right now. Anyway, co-DMs, David and Brian then attack the group. Thane, played by David, warns to the group not to approach him. Thane has the ability to read the group, and unsurprisingly, the fighter has a higher constitution and armor class than the rest of them. He approaches the group. Asher is up next. She acknowledges that Vin has probably been gone for a long time, but ignores the monster that is Thane to instead attack Almori. He sacrifices a monocle for seeing the firebolt attack and then dodges it. Flick sees the body of Vin on the ground and is filled with rage and empowers Tolo with heroism, which is a spell that grants immunity to fear and constant temporary hit points. It's great. He also hands Tolo Bardic Inspiration. Almori, who, again, looks like a malformed Master Roshi, summons Almori's grasping red hand and attempts to nab Asher, but she shakes it off without needing a monocle to avoid it. Dridian reaches for his amulet and summons his nature armor through Shield of Faith and then moves just outside of Thane's reach. He asks the creature why would he do this, and the creature responds that he just wants to go home. Dridian, I noticed, by the way, likes to kind of use some of his turns, not to do big explosive action, but to further the narrative. Love it. Anyway, Ulred launches himself to Thane and gets hit by Thane, which stops him from approaching. Olivina, who is infuriated by the betrayal, lashes out with a Thorn Whip, but she misses, which makes sense because Thane has a 19 armor class. She then casts Shield of Faith on Ulred. Tolo looks at Vin's body and then rushes past Thane to Almori using his feline agility, and then he rages. His magic causes a little exploding pixie to land on Almori. Almori chooses to accept the damage here rather than using one of the monocles to avoid it, and then we go to the top of the round. David, as Thane, goes for Ulred, doing 14 points of damage and absolutely takes the owlbear down. Sarah's pretty upset by this, and looks kind of like David pulls the punch at that point of attacking more, which we know he could, which is probably a solid move. Remember, we're playing with friends, guys. Asher remembers that there is power and patience and hurls more fire bolts at Almori. Again, Almori, because he's covered in eyes. I'm going to stop making that joke now. Anyway, Almori uses another monocle to avoid that attack. Flick brings Ulred back with a healing word and then shoots an arrow at the Metagus, who takes 9 points of damage, but isn't going down quite yet. Mages aren't that frail, you guys. Almori begs them to stop and then uses his power to call lightning down upon Olivina, an area of effect spell bringing 13 points of lightning damage to whoever's caught up in the bolt. Dridian closes the distance, but is hit by Thane, who through an opportunity attack, which causes him not to be able to approach any further, so he heals himself. Olivina hurls a guiding bolt at Almori, hitting, and Almori uses a monocle to avoid it. Ulred attacks Thane, but is unable to connect. Again, a 19 armor class. Fighters, you guys. Tolo moves to Almori and connects with his axe, dealing 9 points of slashing damage, then connects again, dealing another 13 slashing damage. And as a bonus action, he causes another pixie to explode, but the mage just dodges. Notice that Tolo is not Great Weapon Master fighting right now. Anyway, the group determines that Madvale likely did surgery to augment Almori because it's not only just the eyes, he also has like some sort of stone skin effect, but that's like natural. Thane attacks Ulred and misses, but uses a superiority dice to then also miss. A 17 misses, that owlbear is a tank. Anyway, the next swing is a critical hit, and it takes Ulred down. David reminds Sarah that he takes no joy in this, and Thane continues forward to attack Olivina. 15 slashing damage, and then he knocks Olivina to the ground. Then he action surges and attacks 2 more times, getting a critical hit, and takes Olivina out. The prophecy has been fulfilled, by the way. At this point, both Olivina and Vin are down. Asher starts now attacking at Thane, bringing a fireball down on his head, and Landry asks everyone for 7 more d6. She deals 25 points of fire damage, which is unfortunately not enough to take him down. Flick recognizes the vision with his fallen comrades and heals Olivina with a healing word. He then fires an arrow with a natural 1. Inspiration allows him to reroll, letting him hit Almori with a 16, dealing 14 points of damage. Ned acknowledges that Almori's reactions, due to his ability to dodge swings, they'll have to swing at him twice every round. Great strategy, Ned. Almori heals himself, reminding them that he is a meta guy, and then he casts Mirror Image, causing multiple versions of himself to appear. Dridian moves forward to bring Ulred back from the brink of death using Lay on Hands, and then tells the creature that Thane will not get what he desires from the meta guy. He rolls a persuasion and rolls pretty high, and Thane looks to Dridian, but no one really knows what that's going to mean yet. Olivia also heals Ulred, and then 6 the owlbear on Thane, who misses again. Tolo swings at Medigus Almori, dealing a bit of slashing damage, but this only cuts one of the illusion down. He then gets a critical hit, which grants him a third attack, but on that critical hit, he just takes out another illusion. On the third attack, he gets 13 points of damage against the real Almori, whose, again, surgically grafted skin protects him. The creature that is Thane tells Dridian that he will not be deterred, and then attempts to attack Dridian with some sort of mind effect, but Dridian succeeds. Brian, by the way, mentions that he is very impressed by David's knowledge of the creature from the very first arc. David is doing a phenomenal job playing the eye ghost creature thing, by the way. Asher uses her baggage to hurl magic missiles all over Thane. 13 points of damage to the possessed warrior. Flick then bardically inspires Dridian and keeps shooting at Almori, but he misses. Almori is now illusionless and stares down Tolo, who fails a charisma saving throw. Tolo vanishes as Almori tells him to go home. Was that a banishment spell? No. Hold on, I was wrong. It was actually the end of the episode. Well, okay, so clearly this episode is ending on yet another cliffhanger mid-fight, which is, again, an unfortunate side effect of playing Dungeons & Dragons. But that aside, let's talk about what I liked about this episode, what I didn't like, and my theories for the only future episode left. Okay, what did I like? Now, there's a lot to like here. Now, I want to talk actually for a second about co-DMing. Co-DMing is tricky. Bringing in someone else to run a battle, especially a player, is always tricky. Not only do you have to hope that that player has the same values on that side of the DM screen as you do, for instance, knowing when to pull a punch and when to press harder, but you also run a massive risk of pitting player versus player. Now, that risk could lead to a dissolution of trust at the table. I mean, how do you come back from that, Knowing that terrible things, such as Ulred being constantly taken down by David, was caused by someone that you are expected later to adventure with in another form, because presumably David is going to come back for season 2, because we're getting it, baby. That's going to be hard to do if that battle caused any hard feelings, and hard feelings are somewhat difficult to avoid in these kinds of cases. I think the medium of this show being filmed in the way that it is, where they do kind of a week-long spurt of just hardcore playing within months in between, this serves this approach very well. The group has time to let the betrayal wash off of them and see the bigger picture of the narrative. And I think the group, if the group were expected to come back next week and keep playing, that would be really difficult to do. That'd be a hard pill to swallow. So I am putting this in my I like category because I think it's a great way for the players here to game the circumstances that their group is in. On the other hand, I want to caution dungeon masters who want to use their approach at their home games, because again, it not only requires a lot of trust in one of your players, but it also requires trust between the people at your table and that player. Okay, so just a caution. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just cautioning. What's even more impressive about this? In the very first episode, Brian rolled randomly to see who was dead in that vision. In episode 1. This means that David wouldn't have been aware as to what was coming and had to be briefed of his eventual betrayal during the filming process. This is a huge gamble on Brian's part. What if David had said no? What would have happened then? This is a tricky situation. So again, home DMs, use this with caution, but hey, I'm really glad that Brian has a group of players that he can trust to allow random to decide. I also really liked watching all of this come together. In all of my theorizing, I had committed a great player sin. I took for granted some of the things the Dungeon Master threw into the story as just random coincidence, or maybe just a chance to show off a neat monster for a brief moment. I had completely written off the possessing spirit from the ship and the beholder, assuming that they were just self-contained issues to highlight the strangeness of the setting. And I never imagined that they would come back to harry the party in what they see in the end. I don't know. It was a cool way to utilize those monsters, and I did not see it coming. So awesome. I see it, it's obvious now, right? And I'm not saying that Brian's ideas were basic. They were great ideas, but it's just obvious as I look back and I go, oh yeah, they're all eye related. Of course they'd be tied in somehow. I don't know. So I'm a little embarrassed, but I thought it was cool. Dislikes. I do dislike the fact that my theory of the beast being crafted from disintegrated parts caused by seeing into the future is probably not true at this point. It's probably been debunked. I'm a little sad about losing that, but that's not an issue with the show. That's just an issue with my pride. Okay, thoughts, theories, and questions. All right, now I will say I haven't entirely given up on my theory that the eye beast from the vision is made up of disintegrated pieces. In the group's shared vision, we don't see a Beholder or Almori or Thane Longstrider. This leads me to believe that this battle may culminate in a dreaded final boss form after they take down Almori and Thane. This final form may very well be the eye beast that we saw in episode 1. Now, if this is true, then I think we have like kind of two choices for this eye beast. Either we're going to be looking at what I believe it is, the creature culminates from the disintegrated pieces in the strange place, or we're going to end up with a Almori's medical augmentations cause him to implode on himself at the time of death and then become this horrifying monster. So it is entirely possible that the vision from the ship was wrong or modified, right? Often visions of the future presented in Dungeons & Dragons refer less to specifics and more to allegory. So that eye beast in the vision may just be a stand-in for, Almor Eye. But if that's true, that sort of flies in the face of one of the important truths that we were given about the monocles and the point of the future, which is that unlike divination spells, which are subject to interpretation, their work produces concrete facts. So I'm curious how this is going to be played. Very curious on this. Now, Tolo confronting Medigus Madvale. I can't wait to see that. I really want to see that. She seemed pretty assured that he and her would become friends someday in the future. But in the light of her actions, how would this be possible? This is going to be a very twisting road to reestablish that trust that she believes will come. Okay, another thing I'm looking forward to that's kind of meta. When the group defeats Thane, what happens to David? Is David just going to hang out, or is he going to be, banished from the play space, right? Get out of here, guy who no longer has a character, right? All right. Either way, I believe the answer to all of these questions, or at least most of them, should be answered next week in the season finale. Okay, I want to thank you for joining my review of Encounter Party episode 21. The final episode of Encounter Party will air next Tuesday, April 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's already April. Oh my gosh. It's going to be on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network, which you can find on Freevee and Plex. If you have not already, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Or, hey, mock me for not getting the right answer, right? Okay. Or head to the Discord, which I put a link in the thing below to get you access. Go to the Discord for Encounter Party and talk about your feelings amongst other fans, because it's a lot of fun. And as always, please remember to consider liking and subscribing to my channel, as that's just a neat thing that you can do. Either way, thank you for joining me on today's recap, and I look forward to seeing you one more time.